Now, with this specific conversation, Astrology 102, Reclaiming Astrology in Holistic Wellness, I want to get very clear about our intention here. Our intention for this class is to deepen our understanding on what astrology is, the types of astrology, and the history of astrology from specifically a Black perspective, because I am Black, I am woman, and fine. So I wanted to have a conversation about astrology and the history of astrology from a Black perspective, because I think it's important for Black people specifically to reclaim our relationship with astrology outside of just the European lens. So we'll get into the history of astrology on that. And then the second half of the presentation is going to be all about connecting your astrology and your understanding of astrology to your holistic wellness journey. Now, on the screen, you will see a list of different topics that we will cover. I'm going to give the caveat here, family. This may feel like a lot. I'm doing just a graze, just an overview, huh? This is just a graze, just the overview of all of this information. At any point or about halfway through, I'm going to check in with you guys to see if you want to take a break and we can do a part two of this where we can finish up the holistic wellness aspect at another portion. But if y'all feel like you can power through and the information is not overwhelming, definitely we will keep going toward the end. Okay, but these are just a few of the topics that we'll cover, and again, a lot of it is just an overview, but the intention is for you to walk away with a deeper understanding of how to apply all that natal chart information you got in part one to your holistic wellness journey, and what should your next steps be once you have a deeper understanding of your natal chart. Okay, now let's move forward. What is astrology? Now, it's important to understand, and once again, family, just a reminder, you do not need to take notes. This slide is full of information, full of words. This whole presentation, all of your notes is already in the presentation, and I will be sharing that with y'all. So you will not need to take notes. If you do feel led to take notes on your own and you want to expound upon what's on the slide in your own notebook to put two and two together, that is definitely fine, but you do not need to do that, okay? But what is astrology? When we're having this conversation about what astrology is, it's important to understand that there is a key difference between astronomy and astrology. So, astrology is the study of celestial bodies and celestial events. That is astronomy. But astrology is the understanding of the energetic relationship between astronomy and the celestial events, as well as ourselves, Earth, human beings, the human experience, right? So, how do these celestial events, how does the celestial bodies affect our energy, affect our human experience, and affect our experience here on this earth, the earth's experience? That is what astrology is. Some people can be astronomers and not be astrologers because they do not believe that there is an energetic relationship between the celestial bodies, celestial events, and earth experience. But everybody who is an astrologer is an astronomer. Okay, you got that? Not all astronomers are astrologers, but all astrologers are astronomers. Okay, now understanding infinite energy. To really have a deep understanding of astrology, you have to understand infinite energy. What is infinite energy? Infinite energy refers to the endless flow of abundance and life and light and divine connection of all things. That's what infinite energy is. It's all about the infinite flow, the abundant flow of consciousness that is in all beings. This understanding of infinite energy is beyond just astrology. It is a part of almost every major religion. Christianity thrives in infinite energy. Hinduism thrives in infinite energy. Judaism thrives in infinite energy. It's the understanding that everything around us, including us, has energy, has life, and that energy is not created or destroyed. It is constantly moving in the divine flow. It can only be transferred and transformed. Now, when we understand that meaning, when we understand what infinite energy is, That is how we get a deeper understanding of much of our spiritual laws, like karma, like the law of attraction, like reincarnation, like the law of thermodynamics, and various other spiritual laws. This deep understanding of infinite energy is the foundation of all of that. A key example here, when we are talking about reincarnation, when we're talking about the process of death, we're talking about the spirit energy, that portion of energy releasing from the physical body. Christians believe that the spirit does not destroy, does not die. What does it do? It goes to heaven or burns, okay, according to Christian belief. Then you have Hinduism, right? Hindus believe that there is reincarnation, right? In Epha or Isheshe specifically, there's also the belief in reincarnation called Atunwa, and we'll get into that later on, right? But this idea that even if the physical vessel, the physical person, the physical animal, the physical plant dies, the spirit continues to live. The infinite energy flow that is within our vessel is what we like to call our spirit, our divine being. That is our portion of infinite energy. But infinite energy is that connection to the eternal all. And that is why when we talk about the universal all, we are talking about those various manifestations of infinite energy. Plants carry infinite energy. Animals carry infinite energy. We carry infinite energy. The planets, the earth, all things carry some portion of infinite energy. That infinite energy is just embodied in different shells. It manifests in different shells, just as we are a portion of infinite energy manifested in human form. Okay? Now, infinite energy being aligned with celestial bodies. A lot of people will often ask in astrology, y'all have these planets and y'all talk about these planets, and these planets have certain energies, right? Venus is the planet of love and relationships and abundance and all of these things. Oftentimes we'll talk about those things in astrology, but people will wonder, how do you know? How do you know that that's the energy of Venus? How did y'all determine that Jupiter is expansion and wisdom and all? How do y'all know that? Where does this information come from? This information comes from number one, the fact that astrology is not new. Okay, we are not new to this. We are true to this. Astrology is an ancient system, thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years old. The ancestors would study the planets, study the earth, study themselves, and they would pay attention to what planets, what celestial bodies were visible in the sky and how it impacted the energy of the earth, the crops. Were the crops growing? Were the crops thriving? How was their energy? How was their interaction? How was the communal vibe, right? And then that's how they decided what planets were aligned with what attributes. And scientists over the years studied astrology to confirm these patterns, right? So astrology is really centered in a study of patterns. What were the patterns over time, over the years? Once we observe that, okay, right now, and I'm speaking presently, right? Right now, we have a Venus Jupiter conjunction. How are our crops thriving during this time? How are our relationships thriving during this time? How are we thriving during this time? And then once this phenomenon happens again, is that consistent? So astrology is a system that developed over years and years and years and was once an actual full science within its own right. Scientists, again, studied those patterns over time and time and time. And these beliefs, these ideas, these theories and hypotheses got passed down from generation to generation to generation. What happened was, at the turn of the introduction of mass major religions like Christianity and Islam, scientists decided that it was important to separate astrology from astronomy, simply because the belief of astrology went against what was taught in those major religions. It's not that they couldn't prove that it was wrong. It's that the belief went against major religions. And that is why astrology is now considered a pseudoscience, because it ideally, unfortunately, it is not ideally, excuse me, unfortunately, it is no longer considered to be a part of what we would like to be studied and verified through actual science. We only can study it and verify it through our own empirical experience. But hopefully one day some scientists will get together and decide to pick back up the study. But this is how we learned what energy was aligned with what planets. Again, it's ancestral, it's ancient information, ancient wisdom that was passed down from generation to generation to generation. Okay. Types of astrology, honey, and this is when it gets good, okay? And community, this is when we'll have some conversation here. Because there are so many different types of astrology, y'all. There are so many different types. So, sidereal astrology is based on the present position of the celestial bodies based on your perspective or our perspective from Earth. It takes into account Earth's precession. Okay. Now, what needs to be understood with sidereal astrology, and there's always this debate that people will have, what's better, sidereal or tropical, sidereal or tropical? And oftentimes people will say, well, sidereal astrology is based on the position, the actual position of the constellations right now. So sometimes, if we're like, oh, the sun is in Aquarius, the sun is not in Aquarius, it's in Capricorn, that's where it's at right now. But what's happening is with sidereal astrology, what they're doing is they're looking at the position of the celestial body based on our perspective from Earth, right? And they're taking into account that we on Earth are constantly moving. And because the Earth wobbles on its axis, our perspective, from our perspective, the celestial bodies have shifted over time, right? But in actuality, it's not the celestial bodies that is moving, it is us. This does not make sidereal astrology wrong or does not even make it more accurate. It's just a different way of looking at it. So let's really understand what's happening here. You are observing the bodies and judging them based on your perception, your perspective on Earth. Shout out to Neil deGrasse Tyson, who he's, for those of you who don't know, he's a world-renowned scientist, and he made a good comment. And he said, within the world of science, right, or pseudoscience, which astrology is considered, he said, oftentimes our language is based on our perspective and not what's actually happening. He even talked about this with retrogrades, right? Because as we know, with retrogrades, it's not that the planets are actually moving backwards. It's that from our position and where we are, it gives the optical illusion of moving backwards. So we call it a retrograde, but it's not actually happening. I think when we're having this conversation of sidereal and tropical astrology, with sidereal astrology, the language in the whole science and the whole study is centered around the perspective of what is happening as opposed to what is actually happening. And again, it does not make it wrong. It does not make it better than other forms. It's just a different way of looking at it. And both have value. Now, Vedic astrology, which people often use sidereal and Vedic kind of interchangeably, and that's okay, because Vedic astrology is based on the sidereal system, but it combines the Vedas. So when they're explaining the energy, when they're explaining the zodiacs, when they're explaining the signs, they're speaking about it in the form or in alignment with the Vedas, which are sacred Hindu texts. So there's often a lot of like practices and rituals that are recommended that are based and centered in Hinduism. So that is what Vedic astrology is. Again, you'll often hear people use the term Vedic and sidereal interchangeably, but there are many different forms of sidereal astrology. Vedic is just one. Keep in mind, Vedic is sidereal astrology aligned or conjunct with Hinduism. Okay. And then a lot of people don't even realize that when we talk about the Lunar New Year and we're like, oh, this is the year of the snake or the year of the rat or this, baby, that's astrology. That's astrology. You didn't know? That's astrology, okay? It is astrology when we're talking about the Lunar New Year and what year aligned with the animal. That is astrology. That is considered Chinese astrology. And they have their own perspective and their own way of tracking time, tracking the years, and aligning it with specific energy. And once again, it came from their ancient ancestors doing the same exact thing. But what they often did was they studied the celestial bodies and its impact, not just on plants, people relationships, but they focused on the animals, right? Which doesn't that sound like science? When scientists are doing research, don't they often use animals as their test subjects to observe the effects? That is what Chinese science and Chinese astrology is based on. So that's why they'll often say this is the year of the rat, this is the year of the snake, and they will align the attributes with the animal and vice versa. Okay, so oftentimes people will say, well, what year were you born? Oh, you were born in the year of the snake. You were born in the year of the rat. You were born in the year of insert animal. And that's how they would know what attributes are aligned with you. Chinese astrology. Now, tropical astrology, what is what many of us use, tropical astrology is based on the fixed constellation positions. It does not depend on our perception. It's dependent upon the fact that the constellations are actually fixed. So it does not take into account that we are moving. It's judging or deciding what attributes and what is happening in the celestial bodies and celestial events based on where the constellations are fixed and steady. So again, it does not take into account that Earth movement, right? Now, what is Western astrology? Western astrology uses tropical astrology, but it combines it with psychology. So the difference between Vedic and tropical, Vedic uses sidereal and aligns it with Hinduism. Western uses tropical but aligns it with psychology. So this is one of the reasons why within Western astrology, you'll often hear people talk about personality traits, talk about the mind when they're describing zodiac signs. But if you pay attention to Vedic, they talk a lot about spiritual laws because, again, it's centered in Hinduism, right? So they'll talk a lot about karma, dharma, so on and so forth, right? Because, again, it's aligned with Hinduism. So that is a huge difference. And we'll get into some more of that next. Now, here is a chart. I want everybody to pay close attention to this chart, family. And I want you to find your tropical. First off, find your birth date and pay attention to your tropical and your sidereal. You'll often notice that under tropical astrology, you have one sign, and under sidereal astrology, you actually have a different sign. For myself, my birthday is February 10th. Under tropical, I'm an Aquarius, but under sidereal, I am a Capricorn. I'm a Capricorn, which is quite interesting because I'm actually a Capricorn moon. Okay. So I want to have this conversation right here with y'all. What sign do you align with the most? And you all can unmute yourself. What sign do you align with the most? Do you feel more connected with your tropical sign or your sidereal sign?
Mine's the same. I'm a Scorpio through and through.
Ow, ow, I love it.
Mine is Cancer.
You Cancer through and through?
Yeah.
Come,
Mm-hmm.
come on now. Come on now. Anybody else?
Yep.
I'm
For Scorpio. Same for both.
Same for both. Okay. Anybody else have
Hi,
different?
Ma.
A
So,
Leo. I'm a Leo in sidereal or sidereal, and then I'm a Virgo in tropical. And I knew that, but I feel more Virgo. I present more.
Okay.
I'm
um,
a, I'm a
I'm
Gemini in tropical and a Taurus in sidereal. I identify more as a Gemini, big Gemini energy.
Big Gemini. Come on now,
Me
Eshu.
as well. I have the
yeah.
Gemini and the Taurus and Sidereal, but I feel more Gemini. But I feel like I give off Venus energy, but I'm so analytical when it comes down to it.
Mm.
So I'm a
Um,
tropical is July, is a Leo, Sidru is a Cancer, and I always align with a Cancer.
Okay.
I'm the same
Okay.
one, but I align with my Leo.
I'm a
mine is
Libra. I'm a Libra, Libra.
Libra. Okay.
I am a Pisces with a cusp of Aquarius. So it's interesting. Tropical, I'm Pisces, and Sidral, I'm Aquarius. And I align with both.
Okay.
Me
Well,
too.
Yeah, I'm
Me too.
tropical Virgo. Yeah, I'm tropical Virgo with Leo in the sidereal,
Oh, she
but
getting
I
you.
associate more with Virgo.
Okay. All right, y'all. All
I,
right. So,
Okay.
so I'm the same as you, Queen, that I'm the Aquarius, tropical, and Capricorn sigil. And to be honest, I don't know much about the Capricorns, but I've always thought of myself as an Aquarius. So I just say I align with that. But I'd have to do some more research on the Capricorn to see if I feel like I might fall into that as well.
I'm the same
okay.
too, Queen, just like you. And my moon is Capricorn as well, but I'm Aquarius.
Okay, all right, we're gonna close it out here. So I'm glad to see that y'all are assessing and thinking that way. And I want y'all to continue to do that because this is something I truly believe, family. Something I truly believe is that when it comes to tropical, sidereal, both are valuable. And I always tell y'all this, both are valuable for different reasons, and both may resonate at different times. Always keep in mind that with tropical astrology, it's connected deep to psychology. So it is more personal, right? It is more aligned with who you are and how you show up in personality. So I'm noticing that a lot of people are saying I resonate a lot personally with my tropical sign. That is normal because again, it focuses more on the personal. But with sidereal, it focuses more on that Hindu, that the Vedic, if we're looking at it from the Vedic perspective, from the spiritual law perspective. So something I've learned studying myself and people in my community doing this work for years is that most people, when they're considering only themselves, they connect deeply with the tropical sign. But when they consider their life and they consider their experience in spirituality, when they consider their connection with community, that sidereal sign oftentimes resonates a lot. When they consider how their energy and their intention and experience with karma, that sidereal usually resonates a lot. When they consider their journey of showing up in their passion and their life purpose, dharma, that sidereal usually resonates a lot. So this is what I mean when I say both are useful and both are valuable, right? Because your tropical may tell you more about yourself and who you are internally, but your sidereal may tell you more about your spiritual life. Your spiritual life. So moving forward, that's some homework for everybody. Study sidereal astrology and its relationship with your spiritual life, your relationship with the universal all, with infinite energy, and your experiences with all of that. Okay. And just something to take your understanding of who you are and astrology to the next level. Now, with that being stated, I wanted to move forward with the houses, right? Because as we know, in tropical astrology, there are 12 houses, and we'll get into that next. But in sidereal, there are also 12 houses. Okay, so I just wanted to provide y'all with the chart, and y'all can find this online because, again, I want you to study this for yourself. You can also pull your natal chart up online in sidereal. But keep in mind, as you are studying it, always consider the spiritual laws because it's looking and understanding with that perspective. It was created with the intent of that perspective. Okay, so this is the houses in sidereal. And of course, these are the 12 houses in Western astrology. Now, I want y'all to pay attention because this is going to come up later on in the presentation when we're talking about astrology and ancestors, astrology and past life. I want y'all to pay attention for Western specifically. Pay attention to that 12th house, that 4th house. I'm going to give y'all a moment to look through those. You see, the 12th house is all about healing, closure, spirituality, solitude, karma, afterlife, hidden beliefs, limiting beliefs, the subconscious. So when we start talking about past lives, that 12th house is going to come. When we start talking about ancestors, that 4th house, all about home, roots, family, self-care, emotions, that 4th house is going to come. And I'm going to come back here to sidereal because you want to pay attention a lot to that 12th house, which is also about spirituality, but also that 9th house, which is about fate, teachings of the Father. Okay, getting into spiritual gifts as well with that 9th house in sidereal. So we'll talk more about that when we get into past life and ancestors. Okay, now understanding the history of astrology. Astrology, as I said in the beginning, has been around for thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years. It's important to understand that. Now, somebody asked in the chat, Alicia said tropical and Western are the same, interchangeable. Western uses the tropical system, but combines it with the understanding with psychology. So Western uses the tropical system to study and then to understand how it applies and affects us. They look at it from a psychology perspective, which is more personality traits, etc. With Vedic and Sidereal, Vedic uses the Sidereal system to study, but when it comes to understanding how it affects us, they do it more from a Hindu perspective, right? So understanding the spiritual laws and how it affects us in alignment with the spiritual laws, okay? Now, moving forward with the history, like I said, astrology has been around for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. Something that always kind of like hurts me, honestly, is Goddess Kira said, I'm a mud. You so silly. But something that always kind of hurt me is that y'all know I talk about astrology a lot. It's something I'm very passionate about. And my own community, my own people, Black people, will often say that's that white people shit. That's that white people shit. When we start talking about, astrology, or when they consider astrology, it's like, oh, I'm not into that white people shit. I actually had a sister queen of mine who she has her own group and she actually does like a hoodoo festival. And she said she was asking the community, like, who would they want to come to the hoodoo festival next year? And she said a couple of people threw my name out there. And other people in the community was like, she's not hoodoo, she's astrology. I said, whoa, whoa, because what that was a reminder of is a lot of our own people don't even know that hoodoo is astrology, that astrology is hoodoo, that astrology comes from us. And oftentimes, when you are Black and you talk about astrology, people think that you are selling out. People think that you are engrossed in the European ideology because when they think of astrology, they only think Greek or they only think Chinese, but they fail to remember that we do this shit and we've been doing this shit. And every tradition that we have today is based in astrology and utilizes astrology. Never forget that astrology is all about studying the celestial bodies and aligning them with their impact, the energetic impact on our human experience as well as events on earth. Every system of African spirituality, African traditional religion does that. And most African traditional religions are based on Kemetic spirituality. Kemet is the ancient name for Egypt, also known as, it means the Black Land. Kemet, by many people, is seen as the birthplace of civilization. I see y'all putting her name in the chat already. Some of our most popular, or one of our most popular Kemetic spiritualists is the Sister Queen of Fua, who wrote Sacred Woman, right? So people have been studying Kemetic spirituality over the years, but it's important to understand that the Kemites were one of the first to actually record their system of astrology and their understanding of the celestial bodies. Now, they used astrology, they used their study of the celestial bodies to track time, to predict the weather, to predict events that were going to happen on Earth, but also to get a deeper understanding of themselves, right? They also had their own version of natal charts. When a child was born under a certain planetary alignment, they would align that child with certain attributes, and that attribute would be considered their sign. But they don't have zodiac signs like in tropical. They don't align them with animals like they do in Chinese astrology. In Kemetic spirituality, your sign was in alignment with a deity, with a god energy, right? Like Amun Ra, like Sekhmet, like Bastet. So on the screen, and again, y'all will have access to these notes. Don't feel like y'all got to hurry up and write these down. I'm going to put the PowerPoint in the Patreon so y'all can go review this information. And my intention is I really want y'all to go do deep dives. I want y'all to go down rabbit holes. I want y'all to go on the journey of like, let me learn more, right? Let me learn more. Let me learn who I am. So as you can see on the screen, I provided a chart as well as a brief explanation of each energy with the last bullet point. I want you to find your birth date. And I want you to find the deity, the energy that you are aligned with. And I want us to have a conversation here, right? Because I want you to say what your birth date is, what is the energy you are aligned with, their attribute, and do you feel that it resonates? Do you feel like it connects with you? So I'm going to give y'all the opportunity to take yourselves off mute and step up, step back. If anybody wants to start, what is your birth date? What deity are you aligned with? And do you feel like the energy resonates with you?
Okay, I'm gonna go for
Go ahead.
February. Um, and it's Geb. And
Okay.
what I'm seeing, yes, I feel like I align.
Ashe, Ashe. Thank you for sharing, Max. Anyone else?
Um, for me, birthday is June 29th.
Ivana?
Yes.
Ivana, excuse me. Go ahead.
Yes, it's June 29th, and that is Anubis. Um, and I definitely resonate with the creativity part and the passion. The underworld part is interesting because that what how that resonates is my need to connect with ancestors and family home. So that's interesting.
Ashe, Ashe. And keep that in mind too later on when we discuss Epha as well, right? Because that's Olokun energy as well. That underworld aspect is Olokun energy. I want you to keep that in mind. It's all about wisdom. It's all about mystery, right? So would you consider yourself to be a person who often who shows up and appears as mysterious when you are in community?
Yes. Um, people never can really meet, they always like, I can't read you, is a common thing. And then once I start talking, people are drawn to me for advice. I'm that presence of, oh, can you tell me about this? Or you look like you would know about this. That happens a
Yes.
lot.
Yes, yes. I love that. I love that. Thank you for sharing, Ivanay.
This
And I
is
want y'all to hold on one second, Clarissa. I want
sorry.
y'all to continue to do this, right? Because one of the things I want everybody to understand is it's all connected. It's all connected. So although we have these different systems and it's not a competition here. You will see that it's all connected. So I want you to cross-reference for yourself, right? Cross-reference, okay, this is my sign in tropical. This is my sign in sidereal. This is my God energy under Kemetic astrology. And then, like I said, we'll move forward with Ifa science next. Clarissa?
So my birthday is March 13th. So that would be Isis. And mine is, it says nature and healing. And I really do resonate with that, especially in nature, because when I'm in nature, I feel like I'm home. So absolutely.
Ashe, Ashe, I love that. And we'll take a couple of more. We got Cree, Angel, and Samitra with your hands up. Samitra, Angel, and then Cree. Samitra? Okay, Angel, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Oh, go ahead, girl. You got it.
Angel, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So I am August 2nd, and it looks like I'm on the segment, which is
Okay.
interesting because growing up, I had a big and just kind of life kind of happened, but I wanted to be a lawyer, and kind of go up the ranks in that field. I decided to go into business instead, but I did go into criminal justice as my major. It was like juvenile justice at the time, so I wanted to be a lawyer, I wanted to be a judge, I wanted to kind of go up the ranks, and then I kind of just deviated just because of life, and I thought that I kind of discouraged with the justice system, so. I went another way, but it's funny that that is my that is where I align because I'm always like for the right thing, and I don't like people being done a certain way. I'm always the one who's like writing to a corporation or trying to get some kind of justice, quote unquote, for wrongdoing, and I can't let it go until it's done. It kind of like bothers me. So definitely resonates with me. It's interesting that that. And the segment
Ashe.
also because I have a segment in my house actually. He's the scribe, so I found it somewhere like a picture, like a box picture with him, and I thought it was pretty cool. So I have it in the house. So that's another confirmation.
Ashe, Ashe, I love it. Cree?
I thought you was gonna go with somebody else. Okay, so mine would be Isis, and it actually lines up for me because she's a motherhood, magic, healing, and rebirth. And just for me, lately, I've been doing some digging with some information that I acknowledged, and a lot of my stuff ends in nines and 27s. A lot of major events added up to those days. And all of that is, oh yeah, energy too. So it lines up with Isis, and yep, I'm good.
Interesting, interesting. And
Oh,
Sumitra, I
my
want to give you a
birthday is
chance.
12/24, my bad.
It's okay. It's okay, Sumitra. I wanted to give you a chance to go. You ready? Sumitra? You got it? Okay, Sumitra, girl, we tried. We
Oh,
tried,
could
girl.
I go, Queen?
Hold on, Lavender, because we have an order. So I wanted to get Sumitra, you ready? Okay.
I couldn't figure it out. Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead,
Okay.
girl.
Best start was mine, and yes, I relate to her totally. And she came to me a while back. I mentioned that before in the group, but I am a warrior, like, and don't play with my family. I don't play about my family, and I really relate to her and all the things they said about her. That
Interesting.
was
Okay. All
it.
right. All right, y'all. So,
Sorry about that.
uh-oh. You were still going?
Oh no, I just said thank you. Sorry about
Okay, no problem, no problem. Much love. Okay,
the.
y'all. So we're gonna continue to move forward, okay? Because I don't want us to be. Y'all know we'll be here all day, but we're gonna return to this conversation at the end, okay? So no worries. We'll return to this conversation toward the end. Now, moving forward, astrology and Epha science, and as I said, y'all keep in mind all of this information, and y'all will have this PowerPoint, so y'all will be able to cross-reference on your own, okay? But astrology and Ephi science is an interesting conversation because so many more people are returning to Ephi science-based traditions. So it's important to keep in mind that Ephi is the science. Hold on one second, because I'm hearing some static here. Okay, there we go. There we go. Ifa is the science, but there are so many different religions and traditions that are based upon this science, right? So it's important to understand that. Now, when it comes to the different traditions and how they show up in the science, it really just depends on the culture of where you are from. So you have Isheshe, you have Lukumi, you have Voodoo, you have Santeria, you have Palo Mayombe, you have so many different traditions and religions that are based in Ifa science. But it's important to realize that Ifa science is divinely aligned and is, in a way, its own form of astrology. Oftentimes, you'll hear people say, Ifa is not astrology, but it's because they're looking and understanding at astrology from a European perspective. We have to keep in mind that this is all about us reclaiming astrology. We have to stop associating astrology only with Europeans, right? We have to stop associating astrology as just a white people thing. Astrology is the study of celestial bodies and events and its impact on universal energy. Ifa science incorporates astrology a lot within the Odus. It talks about astrology a lot in its workings. Some examples, and let's be very clear here. Some examples of that: when you are told to do full moon workings, when you are told to do new moon workings, that is astrology. Why are you being told to do certain things under a new moon or under a full moon? Why are they even mentioning a new moon in a full moon or a full moon in an Odu, right? Or in an Apataki? It's because it is believed that that celestial body, that energy of that had some type of impact or effect on what was going on. That is astrology. Now, something to keep in mind is that there is no zodiac signs that are aligned with Orishas. Let me not say aligned. Orishas don't have a zodiac, right? So because I don't want to confuse the two here. Oftentimes when we're talking about zodiac signs, we're only thinking about like tropical or sidereal, right? So Oya is not a Scorpio, right? Eshu is not a Gemini. But when we're speaking of energies, there are certain energies and attributes that are aligned with the Orishas that also align with certain zodiac signs. So what people often will do is they will they will take into account the description of the energy and align it with the sign, align it with the Orisha, the same way in Kemetic spirituality, they align these attributes with certain deities, certain gods, goddesses, energies. it's no different. Now, in Epha science, they do not do that, but oftentimes people will align them themselves and will do it themselves. So I have to be very clear about that. The Orishas have no zodiac, but there are common attributes, there are common energetic descriptions that are deeply aligned with the Orishas and different zodiac signs, right? And we'll get into that next. In astrology, there are 12 houses that have specific attributes, right? And these same attributes are aligned with Orishas. It's also important to understand that when you do your E.5, when you get your life reading, right, and they pull that Opun, it is divided into what number? What number, if anybody knows? And what happens within those numbers? And what does that sound like? Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Interesting. But I don't be arguing. I don't try to debate nobody because there will be whole think pieces on why Epha is not astrology. But again, oftentimes what we have a bad habit of doing is we put our own personal trauma and we put our own personal ideas on the truth. But that does not change the truth from what the truth is. Astrology is just simply the study of the energy impact of celestial bodies on humans and earth experience. If you are doing that, if you are assessing or applying, it's astrology, babes, a form of astrology. It's incorporating astrology. Just something to consider. Okay. Now, moving forward with this understanding in mind, right? Understanding that we have planets that have certain attributes. We have zodiac signs that have certain attributes. We have orishas that have certain attributes. What I did here was created a chart aligning the three. You already saw what that was for under Kemetic spirituality and what energies, what gods, goddesses, deities they were aligned with. This is what it looks like if we align it with Ifa. Okay, so take a moment to review that. I'm gonna sip some water. Now you'll notice here, you'll notice here that something that I did was when talking about the sun, and I want us to, because moving forward, we're going to focus on this sun energy a lot, right? When we talk about our healing, our holistic wellness, etc. If you pay attention to this sun and how I describe the sun is about ego, self-identity, core identity. There's a reason I broke those three down in that way. Ego, self-identity, core identity. The Orisha Orumila, who is over soul contracts, is in full alignment with the sun. Okay? Pay attention to that. Pay attention to that. Okay? So it's important to realize here, important to realize that when we continue to talk about doing our healing work, when we continue to talk about doing our wellness work, a lot of it is going to be centered around being in full alignment with this sun energy. Okay? Now, moving forward. Astrology and hoodoo. Astrology and hoodoo. Family, I need y'all to all realize that hoodoo is centered around astrology. It's centered around astrology. Centered. It revolves around astrology. Okay? It just does. Hoodoo is all about the moon, the sun, the stars, the elements, the land, all about working the roots, conjuring energy. Hoodoo is all about that. What is hoodoo? Hoodoo is an African American spiritual revolution against colonization. It combines African spiritual practices, indigenous North American tools, and the elements and much, much more. The reason I put on the screen, I put traditional religion, in parentheses, some people, is because not all people combine their hoodoo with traditional religion. An example of doing that would be people who still combine their hoodoo with Christianity, right? And they will use a psalm maybe when doing their root work. But there are some people combine their hoodoo with Islam, but there are people who don't combine their hoodoo with any traditional religion. There are people who combine it with multiple different traditional religions, right? Like Hinduism, Buddhism, they may incorporate some pranayama, right? They may incorporate some Buddhist style breath work, right? Or meditation. They may also incorporate some aspects of Christianity and Islam. So there are some people who combine it with multiple traditional religions. And that's your business. Ain't nobody here to judge or tell you what to do, what you can't do. Okay, you decide what feels well for you. Now, hoodoo and astrology work hand in hand because many practices center around celestial bodies. It's important to realize that this is nothing new. Our ancestors did this. And that's why I played that song in the opening of this discussion, Follow the Drinking Gourd. If y'all were here on my wellness community OGs, you were here when we watched the show Underground, and that song was a part of the theme song. Many of our ancestors used the celestial bodies to create maps to freedom, to create pathways to freedom. That was them utilizing astrology in their own way. They used the celestial events to decide this is a good time to run. This is a good time for freedom, for release. They would often wait until there was a full moon, not only because the night skies were brighter, but also because the full moon is aligned with releasing, dispelling freedom, right? So they would often wait for a new moon to decide, or excuse me, a full moon to decide to run. Okay, so it's important to realize that the use of astrology in hoodoo is ancestral. When you listen to that song, Follow the Drinking Gourd, the drinking gourd is referring to the Big Dipper, right? Our ancestors would also incorporate in the songs, they would tell you what herbs to use, what roots to look for to know that you were on the right path of freedom. This is hoodoo. Astrology and hoodoo work hand in hand. Okay, so not only is the history of astrology deeply connected to Africa, or East Africa, Kemetic spirituality, and West Africa in Epha science, but the practice of astrology is also deeply incorporated in African American tradition of hoodoo, right? Now, another thing that we have to keep in mind is that there are many different ways to use astrology to elevate your hoodoo workings, right? As I mentioned, you can elevate your hoodoo workings by studying the alignment of your spiritual tools with certain planets, certain celestial bodies, and use them when they are placed in your sign for manifestation for working. Another thing, and we'll get into that later on, another thing that you can do is you want to pay attention to when are you most prone to being able to manifest and to do your workings. Are these tools aligned with your natal chart and your what you're able to do during this time, and use it all together? And like I said, we'll get into that later on. You can also elevate your hoodoo by manifesting where your natal chart is in an abundance alignment, right? So for example, when you are having a Venus return, right? We know Venus is all about elevation. Venus is also about prosperity, physical abundance, and or Jupiter return. Jupiter is all about expansion, abundance, okay? And then you can elevate your hoodoo by making moon water and water aligned with the visible planets. For example, we just had Venus Jupiter conjunction that was visible. You could have made some Venus and Jupiter conjunction water, right? That would have aligned with that energy. I think it was Phoenix Goddess mentioned collecting some storm water, right? So you could have made some storm water aligned with that Venus Jupiter conjunction energy. So a lot of times we will talk about moon water, but we don't talk enough about creating waters that's in alignment with other celestial bodies. And I think it's because as a people, many of our people reject astrology. But if you embrace astrology and you reclaim astrology, you'll be able to elevate your workings by putting your crystals out when the planets that they are aligned with are apparent in the sky, are in prosperity signs. You will be able to elevate your workings by creating that Lionsgate portal water, right? You'll elevate your workings by doing your Lionsgate portal spells and roots, right? You'll elevate your workings by not just focusing on the full moon or the new moon, but also focusing on the sun and using the sun as an opportunity to purify and cleanse your crystals, right? And depending on what sign that sun is and what planets it is aspecting and how it's aspecting, you could actually elevate the energy of your working as well, especially if you are doing a dispelling working. If you are trying to do a road opener, it would be a good idea to do a road opener when you have a Venus Jupiter conjunction, right? So if you pay attention to astrology, astrology, you can actually map when is the best time to do your workings, when is the best time to elevate the energy of your crystals and other tools, when is it the best time to work with certain spiritual tools because they are in the energy that you want to use them for, right? So these are ways that you can utilize astrology to elevate your hoodoo work. Everything here is about taking it to the next level, okay? And again, you can go forward and do your own research on how to do that. Now, before we move forward, I want to just do a check-in. Do y'all feel overwhelmed? Do y'all want to take a break and do a part two, or do y'all want to keep going? Because if we keep going, we're moving forward to talking about soul contracts, healing trauma, all of that. Okay, y'all are like, keep going, keep going, keep going. Okay, now this is when we're gonna, what Adele said, rolling in the deep. This is when we're rolling in the deep. Huh? Because we just scratched the surface here. We already met the first intention. The first intention, remember, was to deepen your understanding on what astrology is, on the different types of astrology, and the history of astrology from a Black perspective. We've already completed that intention. Do y'all agree? First intention met. We completed that intention. Y'all feel like y'all have a deeper understanding of what astrology is, the types of astrology, and the history of astrology from a Black perspective? Perfect, perfect, perfect. I'm seeing a lot of yeses in the chat. Now, here's the next intention. And family, this is when you should pull up your natal chart. I'm going to give y'all a moment. Pull up your natal chart and your notes from Queen L, because the Sister Queen L gave y'all a beautiful breakdown, on how to read your natal chart. We're about to take that to the next level, because what we're going to do is get into discussing soul contracts and talking about trauma, our holistic wellness journey, our healing journey, all of that. Okay. Now, I do also want to give y'all a moment to write down any questions from this section that you may have, so that when we do our open Q&A, you can say, this is a question from part one, and I'll know that what you're referring to. And then at the end, this will be part two. Okay, I'm gonna give y'all a moment to do that. Okay, just a couple seconds though. Okay, I ain't gonna be before you long, huh? Chart on deck. I like that. I like that. Just a little interlude. Get them charts up. In 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's get it. Let's get it. Let's get it. Okay, astrology and soul contracts, baby. I did a video on soul contracts many moons ago. I think those notes are still in the Patreon as well. You can type in the search bar soul contracts and it should come up. I want to be very clear here when we're talking about soul contracts. This slide, Max said about 4 years ago, right? I'm like, a mini moons, mini moons. That was a minute ago. But I wanted to give a good breakdown here of what the overall of a soul contract is, right? Because this is when you get a deeper understanding of your natal chart, and why, when I talk about the sun, I say the sun is the connection between your highest divine self and the highest divine source. When I'm speaking of that sun energy, which the sun is the ego, self identity, and core identity. When I'm speaking of the sun energy, the reason I align it and identify it as your connection with your highest divine self is because it is in alignment with the energy of your soul contract, your agreement that you made before that first breath was breathed into your body. Okay. That is why I speak of it that way. So, what is the soul contract? The soul contract is the agreement our spirits make with the intention of elevation. What agreements are a part of the soul contract? You agree on your purpose, you agree on elevating, you agree on the types of experiences you will have, and that's usually aligned with pain, karmic debt from your past life. And remember, this is when the understanding of infinite energy. comes into play, right? Energy continues to flow. This is when the understanding of reincarnation, right? So when you have your soul contract takes into account agreements of experiences that you will have that can be based on your past life. And we'll get deeper into that later on. Also, the agreement of time. And this is one of the reasons why when people say, oh, well, it was their time, it was their time. And some people will say, well, they were too young, they were too young. It's important to understand that it's not up to us to determine what's too young. It's not up to us to determine what's too soon. And I also want you to keep in mind that you in this present time don't get to determine that. And I already can hear what questions are being asked. We'll save that for the Q&A, right? We'll talk about that. But it's important to understand that the agreement of time is made in your soul contract. Orunmila, the Orisha Orunmila, is the keeper of soul contracts and divination. The memory of your soul contract is embedded in your spirit. It's embedded in your core. Your spirit is your core self. The reason I identify the sun as your connection with your highest divine self is because your core is your spirit. Your core identity is your spirit. Therefore, your core identity, and your ego, which is your self identity, should all be aligned with your soul, with your spirit, with your soul contract. But unfortunately, many of us deal with so much trauma. Many of us deal with shaping, which we'll get into all of that next, that moves us further away from our soul contract. It's important to understand that the longer you are here on this earth, the more you forget your soul contract if you are not doing the work to stay connected with your soul, if you are not doing the work to stay connected with your spirits. And this is why your holistic wellness journey is important. Life moves us away from our spirits. Environment moves us away from our spirits. Experiences can move you away from your spirit if you are not choosing to have spiritual experiences. Okay? Keep that in mind. All right? Now, everyone is born with a planetary alignment that is most aligned with you thriving in your soul contract. And this is why your natal chart is important. You were born at the time in the place that is divinely aligned. Understanding your natal chart is important because you need to understand that you were chosen to be born with that chart so that you can have the best opportunity to thrive in your soul contract. And this is why astrology and soul contracts are important. And I'm going to give you the cheat code on how to get to the root of your soul contract. Now, the quick way to do it is through divination, right? You can do a series of divinations that will help you understand your soul contract. When you do Epha, which is full initiation, you will get a deeper understanding of your soul contract. But you can figure out what your soul contract is by paying close attention to your natal chart and doing your wellness work to heal and detach from the trauma and the shaping that has moved you away from your true highest divine self, also known as your soul, your spirit, okay? Because the memory is there. Now, who is your authentic self? Your authentic self is the unfiltered core identity. What makes up the filter? Environment, shaping, experiences, including trauma. Your core identity can be described from a holistic perspective. Your core identity can be described from the spiritual perspective, the mental, physical, and emotional. Now, ideally, when you are thriving in your authentic self, all of that would be aligned. All of it will be working well together. But when you are not thriving in your authentic self, family, there will often be discord. There will be discourse between the aspects of the holistic self. There will be disagreement. There will be a lack of alignment. The mind working against the body, the flesh craving things that work against the spirit. when you do not know who you really are, when you are not leading with your spirit, when you are not identifying with your true core self, there will be battles between various aspects of your holistic self that could lead you further away from fulfilling your soul contract. Okay. Now, in order to really understand, you have to study your natal chart as though it is for someone else. I heavily advise that everybody take the time to study your natal chart as though it does not belong to you, as though you do not know the environment you grew up in, you do not know the trauma that you've experienced, you do not know anything about your family life. Study your natal chart as though it doesn't belong to you. Because oftentimes, what people will do when you're studying your own natal chart, they will decide what resonates with them as they are studying, right? And I know some folks have been guilty of that. You will decide what parts of your chart resonate with you based on what you have experienced, based on how you show up, right? Oh, that resonates with me, that resonates with me, that resonates with me. When you are not your authentic self, there are certain parts of your natal chart that may not resonate with you because your life has moved you away from that. This is why you got to study it like it ain't you. Because sometimes your natal chart will show you who you are supposed to be, but you don't know who you're supposed to be because life has driven you away from who you truly are. And that is where the work lies. Okay? Moving forward. Authentic self versus trauma and epigenetics. Many people lose connection with their authentic self because their family has shaped them into who they want them to be. And I need everybody to give their family grace here because oftentimes we call that raising, right? Train a child up in the way they should go. You raise a child up in the way they should go. And y'all know I'm a behavior analyst. We call that shaping behavior. Many times, our family has shaped us into who they think we should be, who they want us to be. And sometimes that shaping can move you away from your authentic self. But I need y'all to give your family grace because many times they're doing it out of survival. And that's an ancestral thing. I want y'all to think about when we were watching Underground, right? And remember when the mother was telling this, she had the youngest son, and he had to pick the season one. He had to pick cotton on a plantation, and she was saying, you know, hey, he got to do what he got to do. He got to learn to be tough. He got a quota to meet. He gonna get whooped if he don't meet it. Hey, this is how you learn rhythm. This is how you got to do it. This is how you got to pick this cotton. She was shaping his behavior and teaching him how to move to survive their circumstances. What did we just watch? It was another show that we just watched. Washington Black, where the mother, remember Kit, she wasn't connected to Wash, and she didn't even want Wash to know she was his mother because she didn't want him to be so attached just in case they had to be separated. She didn't want him to feel that crave. And that mindset carries with us today. This is why you hear people say, don't spoil that baby. Don't hold that baby too long. That comes from a survival mentality. You don't want that baby to depend on you because if something happens to you, that baby won't be able to emotionally survive. That's a survival mentality. But what does that do? How does that impact the child? The child becomes less nurtured because the mother shaped the baby to not depend on maternal nurturing. And when you are disconnected from your maternal, you're disconnected from your own divine feminine energy. You are not raised to connect with your own divine feminine. This is why we have to undo some of that rhetoric that comes from our experience of enslavement. Okay? So, again, the shaping can move you further away from your authentic self. Another thing that can move you further away from your authentic self is trauma, being subjected to trauma in the environment, being subjected to trauma at work, being subjected to trauma in friend groups, your own personal experience with trauma as you move into early childhood, teen years, adolescence, etc., early adulthood, late adulthood for some people, your own experience with trauma can move you further away from your authentic self. Because again, the natural goal is to try to survive. But unfortunately, some people adapt survival techniques, coping mechanisms that help them get through the moment, but really move them away from who they authentically are. And this is why healing trauma is so important. And then lastly, many people can lose connection with their authentic self due to epigenetics. And epigenetics is the genetic shift, it's the shift in the genetic makeup that is caused by personal experience. Now, I need y'all to understand, scientists have proven that when you experience so much trauma, it can shift your genetic makeup and chemistry. The genes adjust as a result of the trauma you have experienced. And the epigenetics is those genes being passed down from generation to generation to generation. So many people, your genetic makeup is carrying the trauma and experience of your ancestors. But it's not only trauma. The genes can also shift from positive life experiences. So it's possible to heal your way out of epigenetics. A very surface level example I can give y'all for this is that, what is the cultural group? I want to say it was in Bangladesh. I want to say there was a famine many years ago that happened to us. I want to say it was in Bangladesh, but there was a famine that happened. And during this famine, the genetic makeup was so deeply impacted that the survivors of this famine that went on to have children became prone to diabetes because their physical bodies cannot process the sugars that come from food because they were used to not living off of food, off of only water and plants. So their body does not even process sugar the same way. So they are more prone to diabetes because of that, right? That's an example of epigenetics. The famine caused them to only be able to survive off of water and what they could grow from the ground. They were not surviving off of, and in that area, it wasn't popular or easy to grow things that could create starch. They didn't have sugar cane. They didn't have a lot of things like that. So they were surviving mainly on water and vegetables, right? So imagine, which it makes up a lot of the Indian Hindu diet today, right? They're not very sugar heavy, sweet heavy people, right? So their bodies could not process sugar in the same way, which made them more prone to diabetes. That is an example of epigenetics, right? Now, I want y'all to consider how may have the experience of slavery impacted Black people all throughout the diaspora. When you think back, come on now, Moonchild said it immediately, hypertension, hypertension, hypertension. And low-key, MJ said because of the food we ate. It's the food that we ate that many of us call soul food in various cuisines throughout the world, right, in the diaspora. The foods that we eat, yes, but also the stress, the stress, the stress. So many Black people being more prone to hypertension, many Black men being more prone to heart disease. It's the stress. The stress, our bodies cannot process stress the same way, especially large amounts of stress. And the fact that in our present environment, we are more subjected to stressful situations. So this is the epigenetic effect. And these epigenetics can move you further away from your authentic self as well. Okay, let's move forward. Astrology and your personal healing journey. Now that we understand all of these things that can move us away from our authentic self, how do we get to healing? How do we get to wellness? Let's move forward. Assessing your natal chart can give you a deeper understanding of who you are prone to be. And assessing your trauma can deepen your understanding of what is stopping you from being that. So once you assess your natal chart as though it's for someone else, you have a clear idea of who you were prone to be. Understanding what your soul contract is understanding that you were born in divine time to have the best possibility to thrive in your soul contract. If you had not experienced all of this trauma, if you had not experienced these epigenetics, if you have not experienced all of this, who would you be more prone to be? When you understand that from your natal chart, I then want you to return to self and assess your shaping, assess your trauma, assess your epigenetics, and ask yourself, how has your authentic self been impacted by all three of those things that may have moved you away from who you are prone to be? Okay? This is how you get to understand your personal healing journey. This is who I'm prone to be. This is how my environment impacted who I am and moved me away from that. This is how growing up in the family that I grew up in and how they shaped me, moved me away from that. This is how all of these different traumas may have moved me away from that. This is how my epigenetics may have moved me away from that. But this is who I'm prone to be. Okay. Assessing your natal chart can give you a deeper understanding of what healing practices are most aligned, or excuse me, what wellness practices are most aligned with your healing. And this is when we get into the things. More water placements is a sign that water is your best healing tool. So when you look at your natal chart and you see, okay, I got a lot of water placements. I got a lot of water signs throughout my natal chart. Water may be your best healing tool. A lot of air. Breath work may be one of your best healing tools. Smudging may be one of your most powerful healing tools. Okay. Same thing with fire. You may be a sun person. You got a lot of fire. You may be a sun person. You may be a person who needs to work with fire, purification, cleansing. Okay. Also, when it comes to the earth, those are the root workers. You got a lot of earth placements. You are good with the root. You are good with the herb. That may be your best healing tools and practices. Okay. Being born in a Mercury retrograde is a sign that you may struggle with communication, various things under Mercury, and need to be intentional about doing the work to keep it open. You may struggle with the throat chakra. You have to be intentional about doing the work to keep that throat chakra open, right? Being born with multiple retrogrades means that you are more prone to challenges and blockages, okay? So you need to do work-ins aligned with attracting ease, like road openers, like foot washes. So if you look at your natal chart and you see that, okay, there was a lot of planets in retrograde when I was born, that's your sign combining your hoodoo with astrology that, okay, I need to make sure that I'm consistently doing my road openers. I need to make sure that I'm consistently doing my foot washes. I need to make sure I'm consistently doing my head washes because I'm more prone to blockages. If you were born with the Neptune retrograde, you may be a person who deals with a lot of issues with sleeping and resting. You may have a lot of issues with nightmares, tough dreams, right? A lot of restless dreams. You are also more prone to have the spiritual gift of dreaming. So you need to do a lot of work with the understanding of how can I bring ease to my sleeping and my rest? How can I bring clarity to my dreams? You would need to do workings that's aligned with that. You need to be a person that's on your blue lotus, on your Damiana, on your mugwort. You have your lavender, you have your valerian, you have your kava kava root to help you rest better. Okay. So those are some things that can help you be intentional about how you work yourself. Okay. So just keep this in mind as you assess your natal chart. And again, combining your hoodoo, your root work with all of that. Astrology in your personal spiritual journey. Assessing your natal chart can give you a deeper understanding of your soul contract, core identity, spiritual gifts, and more. Identifying your spiritual gifts. You want to pay attention to your Neptune placements. Okay. And I'm not going to read all of this. It's on the screen. And again, y'all will have these notes. But you want to pay attention to your Neptune placements, your Mercury, and how it aspects Neptune can give you a clear idea of your spiritual communication. The sign that your Mercury is in can also give you a clear idea of your spiritual communication. Your 12th house placement will also be a great way to determine what is your relationship with spirit. Remember, we looked at the chart where I showed y'all in Vedic as well as in tropical, the different houses. Your 12th house placement in both can give you a clear idea of what your relationship with spirit is like and how spirit may want to show up for you. Your moon placement can determine your relationship with your intuition. Okay, your intuition. Now, assessing your natal chart with the present day placement. So the first time I did a whole session on this, remember I pulled up the planets today and I showed y'all how to assess your natal chart with the present day placements. Here are just some more ideas on how to do that, right? So if your Neptune is conjunct or trining the present day Neptune, that is a good day for manifestation. Remember, Neptune is our planet of dreams, spirituality, spiritual communication. So if your Neptune in your natal chart is conjunct or trining today's Neptune placement, this is a good time for you to try to practice your divination. This is a good time for you to tap into your spiritual communication. This is a good time for you to start paying attention to your dreams. This is a good time for you to do those manifestation works, those spell workings, okay? So that would be a good time to do that. If your Mercury or Moon, remember Mercury is all about communication, and then the Moon is all about your intuition. If there's a square or opposition between your natal chart, Mercury or Moon, and today's placements of the Mercury and Moon, you may find yourself having a hard time tapping into your intuition. You may be getting some confusing omens or signs when it comes to your intuition. You may find it difficult to have some of that spiritual communication, okay? So always go. I told y'all I prefer the planets today because it's a very make it plain type of chart that they have there. But you could also go to AstroSeek. I believe that's the one that Queen L suggests, which is great and very super detailed. So both of those are good options. But that's how you assess your natal chart with today's planetary alignment, and you get a deeper understanding of, okay, this is the best time to do certain workings. This is the best time for me to try to communicate with spirit and divine for myself. Maybe I should kind of sit my ass down and work on dispelling and releasing, work on purifying and cleansing. This is the best time for me to do a road opener. This is the best time for me to maybe do workings for other people, for community, right? So this is why you do this work. This is how you do this work. This is how you use your natal chart, use astrology to really know when is the best time for you to do workings for yourself, okay? But also get a deeper understanding of your own spiritual relationship, okay? Now, astrology in past lives, and we're almost done here, family, and then we'll do an open Q&A. Astrology in past lives. Many cultures believe in past lives and reincarnation, okay? In Ifa, it's called Utumwa, and then in many other cultures, it's called by various names, but Utumwa is the Ifa name or Ifa perspective of it. Now, when it comes to Utumwa, it's important to understand that it's about reincarnation, it's about past lives, it's about understanding that your present experience is impacted and affected by your past experiences. And remember when I talked about soul contracts, I had mentioned that within your soul contract, you make an agreement about certain experiences that you will have here on earth. Now, not all experiences did you agree on in your soul contract, but many of our big experiences, and not just bad, great experiences as well as not so great, work in alignment to help deepen our understanding of our karma and help us clear our karmic debt from past lives. Understanding your past life can help you understand the reason why you are having a present life experience. And then I also shared some tips and things that you could pay attention to in both Vedic as well as tropical, things that you could pay attention to understand your relationship with karma as well as past lives. For example, that South Node, 12th house, North Node, also paying attention to the North and South Node of the Moon is very important as well. So your personal North and South Node. The South Node is all about understanding the past life experiences on this earth, but heavily past life experiences in previous lifetimes, okay? So understand that. And then the North Node is all about destiny, all about the future and what you should be aiming for, what you should be seeking to achieve, the lessons you should be looking for and applying, right? That's always the key. You have to remember the key to overcoming your karma, the key to transcending your karma, transmuting your karma is extracting the lesson and applying it. You can apply it in many ways. You can apply it by teaching it to other people so it could be beneficial to the universe. You can apply it by actually changing your own behavior, your own patterns. You can apply it through meditation, and that's called transcending your karma through meditation, connecting with those past lives, okay, and the present self, and doing the work to transmute and transcend your karma through meditation, okay? And also read the 7 Spiritual Laws of Success because Deepak Chopra goes into a lot more detail about karma in that section. Now, at the bottom of this, I do not advise hyperfixating on past lives because this is the thing. Let me be clear when I say this. The past life can tell you the why, some of it. It can tell you some of the why you are experiencing certain things, but it does not stop you from having the experience. It does not stop you from having the experience. It can just tell you why you may be having certain experiences, but it does not stop you from having the experience. The only thing that can stop you from having and repeating certain traumatic experiences is doing the karmic work. Okay? Extracting the lesson, applying the lesson. It does not stop you from having the experience. You just get the understanding of why you may be showing up the way you are. Why are you having these experiences? That's what the past life readings do. That's what understanding your past life does. But do not hyperfixate on it. It's important to be present. Be in the here and now, because what you always must remember is that you chose this contract. You are aligned with this contract. You are here in this body at this time, in this space for a reason. Focus on your here and now. The understanding your past lives, again, it's good to know why certain things have happened, because you can say, okay, this is something that came from my past life. This is something that came from my past life. But you need to remain present in the here and now so that you can handle those things that came from the past life from a conscious, wellness centered perspective. Okay? Astrology and ancestors. Astrology and ancestors. Vedic astrology is heavy in understanding your ancestral connection. And this is when Vedic is going to come in a lot. And I'm going to tell y'all, family, I was going to do a slide on karma as well, but I feel like I would just be reiterating a lot of the same information. When it comes to understanding your ancestors, when it comes to understanding your past lives, when it comes to understanding karma, anything from the past, spiritual laws, that's where your Sidral, that's where your Vedic is going to come into play. Your Vedic combines that Sidral system with Hindu, with the Vedas, with Hindu philosophy and Hindu belief in spiritual laws. Okay. So they are going to be heavy in understanding past lives, karma, reincarnation, ancestor work, ancestor veneration, spirit work, right? Spiritual law work. That's when you want to pay close attention to your Vedic astrology. And this is why all of it works together. Kemetic spirituality and Kemetic astrology is the same as well. What the Kemetic spirituality understanding will help you do when it comes to your ancestor veneration, your ancestor work, is it's going to be able to deepen your understanding of, from a God energy perspective, how your ancestor connection may show up for you and how they may thrive and live through you. So that's what the Kemetic astrology will do for you as well. Again, this is why it all works together and it's all important. If you pay attention to the first 2 points I explained, if you in Western, if you look at the fourth house is going to tell you about those ancestral roots. And Vedic, it's all going to be all about understanding that karma and all of that, okay? But I want to move a little bit further down, because if you look at the third point, I said to get a deeper understanding of ancestors, you need to make sure, excuse me, I got to move this over. You can study their natal chart. So you need to make sure that you study their natal chart as best you can, because I know that a lot of people may not have your ancestors' birth times, but if you know their birthday, you can study their natal chart as best you can. And the same work that you're going to do for yourself, I want you to do for the ancestors that you know. Do for them, right? The ancestors that you like, for example, y'all know my grandfather transitioned. I have multiple aunts that have transitioned, right? So studying their natal chart and asking myself, how according to their natal chart, who were they prone to be? And according to their trauma, their shaping, their environment, their life experience, how did they show up? How did they show up? What work may I need to do considering and understanding epigenetics? What work may I need to do? How may this help me be better at venerating them and giving them the offerings and the things that they need? And speaking of venerating them, you also can be mindful to give them things that are aligned with what their desires were according to their natal chart. So again, if you had if for example, if your grandparent is water heavy, a lot of water placements, you may know that, okay, well, I need to make sure that they water stay fresh. I need to make sure if they are a lot of earth placements, I need to make sure that I'm putting out fresh herbs. I need to make sure that maybe your ancestor, that you are giving them a lot of of plants, of vegetables and things like that when you are putting out your food offerings for them, right? So knowing what offerings to put out for them is also helpful in that way. Okay. Now moving forward. Overall, family, I think it's important to always keep in mind, as I put on a chart, and I will always continue to remind y'all anytime we talk about astrology, is that you are a master manifester. You have the power within yourself to decide the energy that you want to align with. You have the power to decide. Never allow anything to dictate who you are. You have the ability to decide. And this is why I kept using language like prone. This is with astrology, with your natal chart. This may be who you are prone to be, but you also have the ability to decide that that's not who I want to be and that's not how I want to show up. You have the ability to decide that I'm ready to do the work to heal from this trauma and release some of this shaping and heal some of this epigenetic so that I can be well and show up as my best authentic self, so that I can actually connect to the sun as my highest divine self, as opposed to being so deep in this environmental trauma-based ego identity, right? So again, when I'm talking about the sun and I'm saying, hey, the sun is the connection to your highest divine self, it's up to you to do the work to get there. It's up to you to do the work to connect with that soul, connect with that soul contract, so that your core identity, your true self identity, your ego is spirit. It is spirit. But you have to decide that you are ready for that and you are willing to do the work. Never forget that wellness is your birthright. Wellness is your birthright. And the time and the opportunity is yours. Okay? You are worthy of it. You are worthy of wellness, family. Okay? Much peace, much wellness.